Awesome. Hi, folks. Welcome in. Thank you guys for coming tonight. We'll get started in just a couple minutes as people trickle in. But thank you guys so much for joining us on this Thursday evening. Okay, perfect. Welcome in, everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Feel free to hang out, and if you guys have any questions that come up, we'll get started in just a few minutes. But super excited to have you guys all on this Thursday evening too, to talk about pre-professional pathways as well, but we'll get started in a couple minutes. Hi, folks. For those of you that are just joining us, we're just giving everyone a couple more minutes just to hop into the webinar, and then we'll get started for all of you guys too. Okay, awesome. Welcome in, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started just for the sake of time. But as people trickle in as well, I'm happy to have you guys all here on this Thursday evening. My name is Becky Doyle. I'm one of our admission counselors here in the office. I'm going to be helping out in the Q&A with everyone, but welcome to our Gonzaga Admitted Student Webinar Series. It's a really exciting series for us here in the Office of Admission, but we're overall really happy to have this new webinar added for pre-professional pathways, pre-health and pre-law at Gonzaga University. So we'll go ahead and get started with that, but I introduced myself already, but I'm going to pass it on over to Levi, my colleague.
Thank you, Becky. So hi, everyone. Glad you can spend some time with us this evening. Welcome to our Accepted Student webinar for Pre-Professional Pathways. I'm Levi Garcia, one of the admission counselors here at Gonzaga, and I'll be helping run the Q&A section, and I will turn it over to our presenter, Catherine Brackman.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Levi. Thanks, Becky, for hosting the panel tonight. My name is Catherine Brackman. I work in career and professional development here at Gonzaga, where I am the assistant director for graduate and professional school engagement. And in that role, I get to support our pre-health and pre-law students in their career goals and aspirations to want to go on and pursue education and careers in these wonderful pathways. I am also a two-time graduate of Gonzaga. I got both my bachelor's and master's degrees here. And so it is really extra special for me to be doing this work at a place that gave me so much and allowed me to develop as a person. And I just feel really honored to be doing this work and be talking with lots of admitted students about their futures as well. So I am going to share what our time together is going to look like. We've done some introductions. I'm going to start with talking about pre-health and what that experience looks like at Gonzaga and the ways in which we support students on that pathway. And then I'm going to transition and start talking about pre-law. And then we're going to save some time at the end for questions. So as you have questions pop up, feel free to add that to the Q&A, and then we'll get to those at the end. If you have really specific questions, we'll also have some contact information listed. Sometimes those really specific questions are best answered maybe through email, but if you have questions that you think would be really great for the whole group, we'll be happy to address those toward the end there. But without further ado, let's start talking about pre-health at Gonzaga, what that looks like. I want to start our conversation with an understanding of what it means to be pre-health and kind of have a working definition. So for us, that refers to students who are interested in pursuing graduate study and future careers, predominantly as providers. So these are students who are pursuing a bachelor's degree in any type of field. So we'll talk about kind of the academic preparation that goes along with being a pre-health student, but they again want to go on to graduate school to pursue their ultimate career goal. So these are examples of the ultimate career goals that our students are pursuing. So you'll see things like medicine, so working as a doctor or physician, physical therapist, dentist, physician assistants, a whole lot more listed here. You will notice that we also have nursing and nurse practitioner listed on this slide. So for us, we do have a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing at Gonzaga. That is a program that is a direct admit program. So you need to be accepted as a student into the nursing program as a first-year student. So if you are an admitted student, you should hopefully know whether or not you're in the nursing program already. However, sometimes we have students that kind of throughout their pre-health journey realize that nursing or maybe nurse practitioner is the path that they want to go into. So we would consider that to be pre-health. But for our Bachelor of Science in Nursing students, they're already pursuing a healthcare degree, so they don't quite fall into this category. If you have kind of questions about, am I a nursing student or am I pre-health? A good person to start with would be your admission counselor to get some clarification on what that is. But hopefully this gives an understanding of kind of, am I pre-health? Am I interested in these fields? Kind of would I be on this pathway? So in terms of academic prep, again, I mentioned this earlier, you can be any major and pursue these fields that were listed on the slide previously. Many of our students choose to major in fields that allow them to study the body, mind, and health. So think of fields like biology, our human physiology degree, chemistry, biochemistry, psychology, or our new offerings in neuroscience or public health. We also have really great options to develop an understanding of health issues and interpersonal development through some minors like health equity or comprehensive leadership. But I really want to emphasize that students can and are encouraged to major in whatever field interests you in terms of what you want to study predominantly for 4 years. We have had English majors, math majors, business majors, Spanish majors who are all pursuing pre-health. From a grad school perspective, it's really about the prerequisite courses or the required courses that you have to complete in order to get accepted into those medical schools, dental schools, etc. So it looks a little bit different depending on what path you want to go into, but here's maybe an example of what are the classes you would need. So 2 semesters of biology or a year of biology, 2 to 4 semesters of chemistry, 2 semesters of physics, a semester of math. And then again, maybe based on your specific interests, you might take anatomy and physiology, some psychology or social science classes, upper division biology. Based on whatever you choose as your major, some of these classes or more of these classes might be incorporated into your degree. So what you're going to need in order to graduate. And the beauty or the kind of the challenge is to figure out how do you create a plan that is going to let you complete these requirements and also allow you to complete the degree in what you want to study. So how do you do that? Well, at Gonzaga, there are a lot of people here to help figure out how to navigate that. So what do I want to study? And then how do I complete the classes that I want to get to medical school or pharmacy school? So in terms of course advising, you would have a faculty or professional advisor who helps with all of the courses you need for your major. So again, if you're a biology major, having a biology faculty advisor, for example. And their goal, again, is to help you understand kind of the courses that you need for that major. We also have our academic advising and assistance office. One of their jobs is to actually put together your first semester course schedule. And they're also there to help with a lot of academic planning for all majors. They have a really great understanding of, especially if you're balancing maybe a couple of different majors or you want to add a minor here or there, they can really help with that mapping. Then my area, which is our Health Professions Pathways program, is really the experts on what are those classes that you need to get into your grad programs. So we offer course recommendations and are working with faculty, and we're working with the academic advising office to make sure that students and advisors are understanding all the courses that you need. I also want to talk about academic support that's available. So pursuing a pre-health pathway is challenging, and demonstrating academic success through GPA, especially in those science courses, is really important from a future admissions perspective. So we have so many offices on campus and resources that are available to help, including tutoring, learning strategies that can support students in those areas and help to be successful. So that's a little bit about the academic side of things. Research is a really great way for pre-health students to understand how science informs medicine and how to develop really valuable competencies like critical thinking, problem solving, how to work within a team, and also to provide an opportunity to build relationships with faculty who are often writing letters of recommendation for future grad programs. We have a lot of wonderful opportunities for students to be involved in research here at Gonzaga. One really great thing is that our undergrads are working directly with faculty. That might mean supporting a faculty on one of their existing research projects. It could also mean a student-led or initiated project. So some of those are included within a major. So there are some majors that require a research project in order to graduate. One example might be our human physiology program. And sometimes research is optional, or it can be something that you add to your experience. There's research that happens year-round on campus and lots of opportunities to get involved. We also have some area universities that will take on our students to do research. One really great example is Washington State University's medical school has a sleep and performance research center that many of our pre-health students have done research at and find a really great and enriching experience. And then our Center for Undergraduate Research and Creative Inquiry is a really great resource to learn about research that's happening on campus, research that might be funded, how to get involved, examples of really amazing research that students are doing. So we usually encourage our pre-health students to at least try research because it can be such an enriching experience, and see kind of how that goes. And for some of our pre-health students, that becomes such a core part of their time here at Gonzaga. So that's a little bit about how you can get involved in research here. Co-curricular involvement. This is such an amazing part of the experience here at Gonzaga. So health professions grad programs, again, those medical schools, physical therapy programs, dental programs, they are looking for candidates that have demonstrated compassion for others. Many people want to go into healthcare because they want to help other people, strong interpersonal skills, and the ability to work with and lead teams. And so the things that our students are getting involved in outside of the classroom are kind of how you prove that, right? How do you show that you care for others? It's by getting involved in the community. Our students have, and our university has a strong reputation for student service and leadership. It's something that we're very well known for. When admissions at those programs are looking at our candidates. That's something that is an expectation because they know that our students are getting involved because it's such a core part of our mission. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved. Our Center for Community Engagement, which is our service office on campus, they sponsor lots of great opportunities. A lot of them are focused on youth, but they can also connect students with whatever your passion or interest is, kind of however you want to get involved in the community. One example here is Science in Action, which is a program that allows our students to go into some of the local elementary schools and teach science lessons. And that is a program that comes up in conversation so often, probably on a weekly basis when I'm meeting with students. We also have some of our classes are community engaged learning classes. So as part of your experience as in a course, you are going out in the community and serving others. Then from a leadership perspective or kind of other type of involvement, we have our student involvement and leadership office. I think there is something like 140 student clubs and organizations right now on campus. So there are tons of ways to get involved, to work with others, to maybe get some leadership opportunities. There are also things to do in the classroom to develop those interpersonal skills. There's peer-to-peer support. Our students are tutoring each other. They're working as TAs and helping in the classroom. So lots of ways to develop interpersonally and be able to, again, show those graduate programs. Here's how I've really been working on those skills and here's how I care for other people. Clinical experience. This is another really big component of the pre-health experience. This is how you get to discern and decide that this is the path for you. And again, how you get to show a grad program. I've gone out and I've done my homework. I have seen what the healthcare field looks like and specifically the path that I want to go into. And I know for sure that I want to do this. So if you're not familiar with Spokane, we are a very big regional healthcare hub. We're the biggest city in Eastern Washington. And for a lot of the surrounding states, there's a lot of healthcare that comes to us. There's a lot of life flight helicopters that fly over that are coming from Idaho, Montana, sending big important cases our way. And so what that means for our students is we have several hospitals, lots of clinics and clinical practices. And we also have several health professions grad programs. So we have medical schools, we have physical therapy programs. So opportunities for our students to get that experience and also to interface with graduate students. Our students are going out, they're volunteering, they're shadowing, they're getting internships, they're doing research, which I mentioned a little bit of that before. And many of them are also gaining jobs in the healthcare space. So they're not only getting that experience, but they're also getting some sort of training or certification and getting paid for the work they're doing, even as an undergrad. The healthcare field is a really big portion of the workforce in Spokane. So there are a lot of opportunities and there are things that are happening even within walking distance of campus. There's a physical therapy clinic that's right across the street from campus and we have students that are doing internships there. There are hospitals that are very close to campus that our students are volunteering out regularly. So there's no shortage of opportunities to get that clinical experience here in Spokane. This is a photo of the University of Washington School of Medicine, Gonzaga University Health Partnership Building. And so I want to talk a little bit about that partnership and the opportunities that it presents for our undergraduate students. So the partnership is both kind of physical representation and then also creates a lot of programmatic opportunities. So this is a partnership with the University of Washington School of Medicine. And in that building that was pictured, they are educating 120 first and second year medical students here in Spokane. And then there's also a building right next to it, which is this really cool brick building that they're educating 32 PA or physician assistant students. So the University of Washington, in terms of their medical school and their PA program, they do run a separate admissions process. So as part of the partnership, there's not an admissions agreement as part of that. So they aren't reserving spots for Gonzaga students. Their mission as a medical school is really to provide a healthcare workforce for a 5-state region. So Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho. If you've heard of something called the WWAMI region or the WWAMI partnership, that's what that is. So they have a strong preference for accepting students from those states, which many of our students are from those areas or want to practice in those areas, but that's kind of what their admissions process looks like. But what that means for our students are a lot of really good opportunities, even when they're undergrads. So the University of Washington Med School, they have an anatomy and physiology lab where they do have cadavers. And our students, if they are taking anatomy and physiology, have access to that through a partnership with our human physiology program and the University of Washington School of Medicine. There's also a lot of programs and events that happen. The med school brings in some really incredible guest speakers. There are events that the med students host, whether it's a day in the life of a med student, they do some kind of, here's some basic vitals trainings. There's also mentoring that happens. Just the other night, there were some med students that helped give a presentation about the MCAT and how to prep for that standardized exam, and just a lot of formal and informal interactions that take place. We also have some faculty that teach at both the med school and at Gonzaga. And what that really allows them to do is kind of share that experience with our undergrad students and say, here's what I'm seeing in the med school, right? Here's how quickly we're going through that information, or here's what I'm seeing the med students be really successful at, and kind of share that knowledge with our undergrads. So it is a really great opportunity for our students that I think is pretty unique and pretty cool. And then we do have students that are successfully admitted into the University of Washington. This is a photo of one of our somewhat recent graduates who is graduated from UW and is now doing his residency. But I think what also really resonates is UW School of Medicine has a strong focus on social justice, which is very relatable to our mission of social justice and kind of care for others. So I think that's a really great piece that's also kind of an informal part of the partnership. So we have a really strong pre-health community on campus. I mentioned that just generally there are a lot of clubs on Gonzaga's campus. Because we have about 20% of the incoming class each year at Gonzaga is interested in pre-health, there are a lot of ways to find community and support here. And one example is through our pre-health clubs. So here are, again, these are just pre-health clubs or clubs that have kind of an interest in healthcare issues or a high density of students that are interested in healthcare fields, and they're putting on lots of programs throughout the year. Or in the case of A Moment of Magic, which is one of our clubs, they're going into healthcare settings. A Moment of Magic is a club on campus where they dress up as princesses and superheroes, and they go into hospitals and shelters, and they interact with kids in vulnerable situations. And it's just a really cool and powerful organization, and many of our pre-health students have been involved in that. So it's not a healthcare organization, but I think it's healthcare adjacent, and again, just shows the great, wonderful things that our students are involved with in the community. I've mentioned this kind of throughout the ways in which we support pre-health students, but I want to talk specifically about the Health Professions Pathways program, which is what I lead here. So this is essentially our pre-health advising and support for students. So we are supporting students during their time here at Gonzaga, and also even after they graduate. So we sometimes have students that are taking gap years, or maybe they graduate and a few years later they realize that they want to go to medical school, or they want to go into some sort of healthcare field. So we're supporting students all the way up until they are hopefully successfully admitted into school. And we're doing that through a lot of one-on-one meetings. We host workshops and events throughout the year. We are able to connect students with mentors. The Gonzaga alumni community is incredibly strong. And every time I get an email from a student that's accepted into school, which I probably got 1 or 2 just this week, they all say, how can I give back? How can I help current students? And I think that's really powerful. I also teach a 1-credit course for juniors and seniors that is focused on the application process. So we go through a mock application, we focus on how to write a personal statement, how to interview for all of these graduate programs. And so it's a really structured way for students to get that support if that's something that would be valuable to them beyond the workshops and the one-on-one meetings. We are meeting with students about a wide variety of topics in those meetings. Here are just a few examples, or the most common examples. Everything from how do I decide what career is best for me? How do I decide between physician and physician assistant, to how do I prep for my standardized exam, to I have an interview coming up. Can you run through some questions for me so I'm most prepared? So again, helping students kind of from start to at least getting into school. It's not the finish for them, right? The finish is when they graduate and get to practice and then are giving back to our students, but kind of throughout that whole process. I've given you a lot of information, hopefully, about the pre-health experience here at Gonzaga and the ways in which we help students. And we'll have some time for Q&A at the end, but wanted to share some resources that would be helpful related to pre-health. So our website is listed here, and the QR code will direct to the website. If you have questions about pre-health, feel free to direct them to the email listed here. And then, of course, if you have more admissions related questions, if you're working with a counselor already, go ahead and email them, or you can direct it straight to the admissions office. And I'm going to transition here to pre-law in just one second. Okay, so pre-law now we're going to talk. And you'll see with this, if you've been listening to the whole session, there are some differences and also some similarities between these two pathways. So with pre-law, there is no specific pre-law major, similar to there is no specific pre-health major. Law schools are looking for students from a variety of backgrounds. And so again, we are looking to encourage students to choose a major that matches your strengths and interests and helps you prepare for a future law career. So there might be some specific examples, like if you were interested in patent law or intellectual property, a background in science is helpful for those specific careers. If you are interested in corporate law, maybe you consider taking some courses that are more business focused and courses such as mergers and acquisitions or employment law. But generally speaking, courses that are going to enhance reading comprehension, research, writing, critical analysis skills, those are what are going to help prepare you as a future law student, and of course also help you for the LSAT, the law school admissions test. And Gonzaga's core curriculum is really great for those critical thinking, research, writing skills. But here's some examples. I just pulled a few based on courses that are across different majors on campus that maybe you would consider taking based on a specific interest that you had, whether it's environmental law or politics. And again, if you have a specific focus as a pre-law student coming in, that's great. But again, you don't have to have that necessarily. Again, the kind of those general prep, how do you think, is going to help you prepare for a future as a law student. Other things that are really important to consider as part of your preparation as a pre-law student are the co-curricular involvement, similar to being a pre-health student. So law schools are looking for candidates that have developed a resume of co-curricular professional life experiences, and that can involve clubs, organizations, service involvement, study abroad, research, work experience is also really valuable. And so here are some examples of ways in which our pre-law students can engage in some activities or some common pre-law activities. Our debate team, mock trial team, Model United Nations. These are all programs that are regular competing at and winning awards at regional and national competitions. So these can be really great experiences for you to kind of develop skills that might be helpful, especially if you imagine yourself being a trial attorney. And it's also a great way to meet other pre-law students that might be choosing to get involved in these activities. Study abroad can be a really great experience as well, especially if you're interested in international type practices. And there's also a Washington, D.C. semester internship program that is popular with pre-law students, but ultimately, how you choose to spend your time and what you invest in, that's what's going to stand out in a law school application. So finding ways to contribute to different organizations or activities that you're involved in, the connections that you can make between your experiences and your career goals, that is what's going to help build a law school resume, so to speak. There's not really a prescribed pathway to pre-law, but there are a lot of great examples, and that's something to really work with a pre-law advisor about and kind of be able to brainstorm those ideas together. Legal experience is also really great as a pre-law student. So again, seeking opportunities to learn more about the legal field and ask yourself, is this something that I can imagine doing? So this can mean job shadowing, informational interviewing, internships, work experience, finding a mentor. Some examples of how students have done that in Spokane or within the state of Washington. The Washington State Legislative Internship Program, that's actually in Olympia, which is the capital in Washington, that requires students to take a semester away from Gonzaga because they are spending their entire time during a legislative season. But for students that are really interested in policy work, this is a phenomenal experience. Some things that students are doing in Spokane are getting involved in the Spokane court system. There are a couple of great opportunities to work with children that are getting kind of navigating their way through the court system, or individuals from lower socioeconomic statuses, so kind of advocating for them, and you're getting an understanding of the legal system while getting to help somebody. There are also ways to get internships with local firms or organizations. Sometimes law firms are really looking to hire current law students for interns, but we have had some undergrads that are able to find opportunities or maybe just to work in a law office. But again, being able to connect experiences with future goals is a wonderful way to get experience. So a student that maybe has an interest in environmental law might think about ways on campus or off campus to get involved in that type of work. So whether it's our Gonzaga Environmental Organization, which is a student group, or something like the Lands Council, which is off campus. Again, lots of ways to get involved and build experience and understanding of the issues that are related to the causes that you're passionate about. I want to briefly talk about the Gonzaga University and Gonzaga School of Law 3+3 program. This is a joint program that is specifically with Gonzaga School of Law and our College of Arts and Sciences. So if this is something that you were interested in pursuing, you would need to pursue a major that's in the College of Arts and Sciences. And what it does is it provides students that are working toward a bachelor's degree the ability to apply to and graduate from law school a year sooner. So it's essentially an accelerated pathway. So completing an undergrad degree and a law degree in 6 years instead of the traditional 7. This is really for highly motivated students. And students really need to work closely with their academic advisor and the pre-law advisor if this is something they're interested in. It is not something, though, that a student has to apply for as a first-year student. So really where the work is done very early on to kind of map out what the timeline would look like and to say, is this something that would be a really good fit for me? But the application process happens when you get ready to apply to law school. So traditionally, a student on a 4-year plan would apply during senior year, but a student interested in this program would just apply a year early in junior year versus senior year. And again, this is just for, the relationship is just with Gonzaga School of Law. So this would be for somebody that really has a desire to continue their education at Gonzaga through the School of Law. Again, want to kind of touch on some of the resources that are available for pre-law students. So pre-law advising is run through the Career and Professional Development Office, and we're really lucky to have, as part of that partnership, a pre-law advisor, Father Pham, who is one of the Jesuit priests here on campus. He's also a practicing attorney and has several different degrees listed here. Our Jesuits are usually very well educated. He is an assistant professor of law and the supervising attorney for the Indian Law and General Public Practice Clinic at the Gonzaga School of Law. And so he is meeting with students really regularly on a wide range of topics, from for something like, is the 3+3 program something that would be a good fit for me to, what are career options in law? Why might I consider an option to go into law school, kind of that career discernment piece, to the application process? What does that look like? And helping with application materials in our office, the Career and Professional Development Office, also helps with those. So again, personal statements, resumes, all of those application materials. We are also hosting events throughout the year that are pre-law and also career related. So these are kind of an example workshop schedule of events we're hosting throughout the year. And many of them we are hosting in very close collaboration with the School of Law. So they are wonderful resource and partner when it comes to educating our pre-law students about what the preparation process looks like, including the application timeline, the nitty-gritty details, and also what it means to finance a legal education. They help us with a really great session on what that looks like in terms of scholarships and applying for them and kind of the loan process. And then again, we also do several one-on-one appointments, and then the Career and Professional Development Office hosts several career and internship fairs throughout the year, which are a really great way for pre-law students to go out and find those opportunities to help build their resume for law school. Again, happy to answer questions here in a few minutes, but ways to get more information about pre-law at Gonzaga. Our website is listed here and also linked through the QR code. If you have really specific questions, maybe about your situation, go ahead and email the Career and Professional Development Office, which is listed there. And then again, if you have more kind of admissions type questions, go ahead and contact your admissions counselor. So I'm going to go ahead and stop at least presenting information and hopefully take some questions that Becky and Levi have been paying attention to kind of throughout, and we'll see what questions we can get to from everyone who's in attendance today.
Awesome. So we had a couple great questions coming in the chat, a couple about vet school as well, which I think is a really great topic too. But the first question is from Sarah Muir, and it says, can you tell me which colleges are most common for vet school after Gonzaga University? Also, what is the average acceptance rate for vet school?
Vet school. Okay, awesome question. Thanks for that. And yes, vet we would consider to be pre-health. It's care for others. It's healthcare for animals, which is really important. So the most common, I would say, a lot of our students do end up at Washington State University. That is definitely one of our top schools because we have so many students from Washington. A lot of the vet schools are at those state public institutions, which often have a preference for candidates from their state or from their region. So I would say Washington State, or kind of within the region or within the West would be our top, but Washington State University for sure. Our acceptance rate is right now, over the past few years, I think this is about a 5-year average, 73%. We don't, and that's with about 4 applicants per year. Our pre-vet population is not one of our strongest populations, but we definitely have pre-vet students on campus. But I think that's helpful to know, anyone who's interested in science, to kind of know that that 73% could swing with 4 applicants a year, could swing very dramatically in either direction if we have more or less students. But hopefully that's helpful.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine. And the next question is going to be, what percentage of pre-law students are successfully admitted to law school?
Awesome. Lots of percentage questions. Good thing I looked these up all ahead of time. Our 5-year average for law school admissions is 76%. And that is a lot higher number of pre-law applicants per year than the pre-vet for sure. And that is all, I think with all of these numbers too, this is everybody, kind of whether or not they're a current student or whether they've been out a few years. So we count everybody in that number because people are coming to this space from lots of different fields, especially with pre-law. People come to that at various different ages, which I think is really cool, actually.
That's awesome. And a similar question to that is, what law schools are most common for GU pre-law students to attend?
What law schools are most common? I don't know if I have most common. We have had students, I would say we have students admitted across the nation. I think when it comes to law, our students look very broadly. We do have a fair number that continue their education at Gonzaga because they do really enjoy the Jesuit education and philosophy. But we've had students that go to, back across the state to University of Washington. We've had students down at Arizona State. We've had students at George Washington over in Washington, D.C. Kind of, maybe more of that interest in international law. So I could put, if somebody really would like to follow up, I would say send an email and, could dive a little bit more deeply into the top schools. Because I don't have that off the top of my head, but I do know that our pre-law students are going all over, which is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. I know I have a friend over at Villanova from law school, and she was at pre-law. They go everywhere too. So that's awesome. And then the next question is going to be, it's a little bit more specific, but it's, can you gain residency in Washington during undergrad to increase your chances of being accepted to the medical PA school for postgrad at GU, WSU/UW?
That's a really great question. So both University of Washington and I think Washington State, was that also included in the question? Okay. So both of them, every school gets to set its own residency requirements. But what I will tell you is usually being an undergraduate student does not count as residency. Usually you need to be considered an independent person. So if somebody wanted to pursue residency in Washington, what they more than likely would need to do is work and live here for a year after graduation and establish residency then. Because in the process of application, what they're going to ask for are things like driver's license, voting records, W-2s, your address. They're going to ask for proof of residency, and if all you can say is I've been attending school here, that's not enough to link you here. So it is possible to establish residency in Washington, but to be more competitive for the programs that are here. But one, you would have to give up your existing state residency. So that's something to think about. And then two, it would be a longer process, which many of our students do choose to do because they want to go to school here. But just know that that's part of the timeline.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. And then one question which actually had like an upvote of like someone also wants to ask that question is, what is the acceptance percentage for medical school?
For medical school, yep. I figured this question was going to come. So our again, this 5-year average for medical school, which for us, we include, if people are familiar, there's allopathic medicine, which is MD, and then osteopathic medicine, which is DO. So if you're kind of seeing different letters after a physician's name. So our 5-year average right now is 73%, which again is all of our applicants. I know that schools can report numbers in a lot of different ways, but we don't, we include everybody, whether or not they met with us or not, all majors, all GPAs, which we think is important because we don't set any sort of parameters on, that a student has to have a particular GPA to meet with us. So we just kind of count all of the applicants in that average.
Awesome. And that looks like those are all of the questions that we had in the Q&A. But does anyone have any last minute questions that they want to drop in the chat? If not, Catherine, do you have any like closing things you want to say before we close out the webinar?
I would say, I mean, first of all, I would say congratulations on getting accepted to Gonzaga. I know this is a really exciting time. Hopefully you're viewing it mostly as exciting. I know it can be a little bit scary thinking about what happens in the next year. But know that you are going to make a really great decision about your future if you're still deciding. If you are coming to Gonzaga, we would love to have you. And I think what makes this place really special is that there are so many people that want to help you on your path to success. I think everybody here is really tied into the mission and wanting to help students. So we would love to have you here in the fall, but I also hope that wherever you end up, that you have that kind of experience and that you get to go out and do the amazing things that you want to do, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in the legal profession, or whether you discover something in college that wasn't even in your plan. I remember what it was like to be making a college decision, and you're going to experience a lot of growth, and it's going to be really great. So just be open to all the possibilities and be open to the help that's going to be given to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine. And it looks like we didn't have any other last minute questions come in, but you guys all have Catherine's contact information with H3P as well as careers@gonzaga.edu. But overall, thank you guys so much for coming to this webinar today. We'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case anyone has any questions. But overall, if you guys are looking for this webinar and you want to see the recording, it'll be posted within a couple days on this website that I just sent off into the chat. So feel free, if you want to come back, look at it later, and see if you have any more questions after that, feel free to reach out to any of us. But overall, thank you guys all so much for coming today. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night.